And so if we listen with our spiritual ears and respond to the invitation, there will be fear and trembling in our souls as we recognize that it was God who was working in us to cause the salvation that happens. In Matthew chapter 10, verse 32 and 33, it says, "Therefore, whoever confesses me before men, him I will also confess before my Father who is in heaven. But whoever denies me before men, him I will also deny before my Father who's in heaven." Now here's the spiritual principle here, is that what Jesus does with you depends on what you do with him. Let me say that again. What Jesus does with you depends on what you do with him. If you confess him, he'll confess you. If you deny him, he'll deny you. See, it's something about you. See, what Jesus does with you depends on what you do with him. And here's what I want you to understand this very carefully. Matthew chapter 9, verse 35 through 38. "Then Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom and healing every sickness and every disease among the people. But when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion for them, because they were weary and scattered like sheep having no shepherd. And he said to his disciples, 'The harvest truly is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest.'" And may I say this to you, that the harvest is still great, and the master still needs laborers. Here's my question to you. Will you answer the call so that you can be chosen? Will you answer the call so that you can be chosen? Because the harvest is still great. In fact, the harvest is greater now than it has ever been in history. Because we've got more people on the planet now than have ever lived at any one time. The population of the earth are nearly 7 billion people on the planet, more than have ever been alive on the earth before. And so he's just looking. He's looking for somebody who's not waiting, because we've sat by and we've just had this whole idea that, well, I wanted to be like Bishop Bronner, where Jesus appeared to him and called him into the ministry, but I have not had any great vision. You don't have to have a great vision, but you do have to have a great ear to be able to hear a call when he says that the harvest is truly plenteous, but the laborers are few. And he's looking for somebody. He's looking for somebody who has an ear. Don't ever belittle yourself and put yourself down to say, you know what, I didn't have this kind of thunderous call from God. I didn't get this, I wanted to have the lightning flashing and I wanted all of these things to happen, but I didn't have this to happen to me. But he was calling you nonetheless. He had a call. He said in Isaiah chapter 6 and verse 8, "And I also heard the voice of the Lord saying, 'Whom shall I send?'" Why would God ask that question? Whom will I send? And who will go for us? And then Isaiah says, "Here am I, send me." He volunteered. He put himself in the chosen. And if you ever answer the call, you see a need and you answer a call, and if you ever say, "Lord, here am I, send me." He looked for a man among them to stand in the gap and make up the hedge. And he found none. He was waiting for somebody. And maybe the people that were waiting for some type of lightning to strike them, for some type of supernatural experience to happen, when God is just looking for the willingness in a person's heart to say, "Lord, here am I. Here am I, send me. Here am I, send me. Here am I, send me." May I just say this to you, that maybe, just maybe, I don't know how this whole thing worked in my own life, because before I ever had an experience with God, and before I ever heard the voice of the Lord at 7 years old, I had seen a holy man of God. And I said to the Lord, "Lord, I'll do that." And not many days afterwards, I got his call. Little did I know that the harvest was plenteous and that God was looking for somebody who was not waiting to be drafted, but somebody who would say, Lord, I see a need here. I'm willing to go. If you can use anything in me, use me for your glory. If there's anything in my life, I was in a situation, I was not called, I hadn't had a vision, I hadn't had a dream, I had not heard a voice. I saw something that stirred something in this young soul. And I said, God, here am I, send me. Send me. I didn't wait for anybody else. I had never heard of anybody doing ministry in their school. But I saw a need in my school. And I said, Lord, here am I. Send me. Send me. Send me. May I just remind you in 1 Peter 2:9 where God says, you are royal. You're a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people. May I just say that he said, you are a chosen generation. That word generation there is a word that means kindred people. You got a kinship in the spirit. You are a chosen generation. How dare you allow somebody to make you feel as though your generation is the worst generation that has ever lived. You're a chosen generation. But God can't use anybody that won't say, here am I, send me. There was a need that was there. And maturity says that when there's a need, you don't have to really wait. I mean, if you've ever had your own house and had to clean up your house by yourself, you find out who your real Ace Boone Coon deep friends are. When all of your other folks have left your house and dishes are stacked up and trash is right out of the trash cans. And that friend that'll stand around and talk with you and wash dishes with you and help you take your trash out and sweep your floor. Are you listening? They didn't even ask you for permission. Do you need, the little courtesy? You need me to help you with that, honey? You know they need help. Here am I. Send me. And you put yourself in the chosen of God. Listen. The Lord of the harvest says, listen, I got all of this fruit out here that is spoiling on the vine. The world is going to hell in a handbasket. I'm the Lord of the harvest, he's saying. The harvest is plenteous, and my laborers are very few. And the Lord of the harvest says, pray to the Lord of the harvest that he would send forth laborers into the vineyard. Somebody that will say, Lord, here am I. Send me. On my job, in my neighborhood, in my civic club, in my sorority, in my fraternity, in my school, in my family. God, if there's a need, here am I, Lord. Send me. If there's anything that you can use in this vessel, God, use me. I don't claim to be called, to have had a dream or a vision, but God, if there's anything that you can use in me, I know I've heard, God, that the harvest is plenteous. Now, what are you going to do about it? Only those who have ears to hear will respond and say, Lord, here am I. Send me.